Greetings, I'm Ile I. Wow, this has been great. Lots of valuable information has been shared on how spirituality can heal the body. So I encourage you to use all of what you can to help you navigate all that you wish to navigate. Thank you for joining us in this segment, and let's continue to move through our Babaluaiye Healing Ritual experience. Asheo!
Greetings, everyone. Babaluaiye. My name is Ifa. I am an Ifa priest, teacher, Yoruba language and cultural enthusiast. I do a lot of spiritual work in the community, and I also do a lot of online workshops, events, classes, things like that. If you want to find out more, follow me on my Instagram first at Oriire, Oriire, or on my website, IamOriire.com. So when it comes to this whole topic of healing, right, what I specifically want to talk about is how our Egbe Orun, our heavenly mates, play a role in our spiritual and physical health. So I'm going to chant two of my own personal Odu. My Odu from Hana Ifa, right, and my Odu from Ifa initiation. So first, my Odu from Hana Ifa, Utura Meji. Ifa says, Akudu Mangbele, Dia fún eré ayé, ó ń bọ̀wọ̀ kan fún tọ̀run, ẹbọ ni Ifá ní kó ṣe, ẹ̀kúrú àkàrà tí mo jẹ, ìyá mi ti sán, àkùrù máa ń gbẹ́lẹ́, máma kú dẹ̀gbẹ́nu, àkùrù máa ń gbẹ́lẹ́, ìrà ikú, ìrà ajé, ìrà aya, ìrà ọkọ, ìrà ọmọ, ìrà ìṣẹ́gun ọ̀tá tí mo jẹ, ìyá mi ti sán, àkùrù máa ń gbẹ́lẹ́, máma kú dẹ̀gbẹ́nu, àkùrù máa ń gbẹ́lẹ́. The second verse that I'm going to chant, and we'll discuss it, comes from my Ifa initiation Odu. Ifa says, Bí òjòjò, bí òjòjò, bí òtútù, bí rínrín, díá fún rínrín tí ń sọmọ ajá láyé, díá fún òtútù tí ń sọmọ ajá níwárán, ẹbọ ni wọ́n ní wọ́n ó ṣe, ẹ̀rọ̀ pọ̀ ẹ̀rọ̀ fà, ẹ̀yin ò rí òtútù bí ti mú rínrín lọ. We're going to come back and talk about what each of those verses means and how it relates to this whole topic of healing. But first, let's make sure everyone has a good foundational understanding of what Egbe Orun is, right? So Egbe Orun just means heavenly group or heavenly mates, right? The word Egbe just means group or like your peers, your mates, right? Orun is the spiritual realm or heaven, right? Not exactly in the Christian sense, but this is the spiritual realm, the abode of all the divinities and the deities, right? So to really understand this topic, let's take it back to before we are born. Every single human being starts off in Orun, the spiritual realm, before they are born, and they, come to earth, born through their mother, right? And there's many things that happen in preparation for every human being to be born. We know many of them. Batala molds our body out of a special clay. The Creator breathes life into that body and animates it. We choose our Ori, which is essentially choosing our destiny. But there's one important step, right? We each have a spiritual double that we split away from, right? And we call this Anikeji Orun, right? Which literally means like our heavenly double, right? So every human being, you're born, you go to earth, your spiritual double stays in heaven. So we all exist in the physical plane, and we simultaneously have a spiritual double that exists in heaven, right? Now, just like we down here on earth don't sit and do nothing, right? We have social structure. We have relationships with each other. We're a part of groups, and we have different categories, right? The same is true for all of our spiritual doubles in heaven. They have complex relationships with each other. They interact with each other. They have groups, right? They have categories, right? And the collective of all of them, with all their structures and groups and categories and relationships, are what we call our Egbe Orun, right? Our heavenly mates, right? All of these, the collective of all these doubles in heaven, right? So it's like our people that we are close to in heaven, right? Why does all of this matter? How does this impact our lives as human beings? Well, in several ways. Number one, they say that the relationships we have down here mirror the relationships we have in heaven, in the spiritual realm. So if I'm close to someone here, it's because our spiritual doubles are also close. If I'm enemies with someone, it's because maybe we're also enemies in heaven. That's one way. Another way is that our egbe, they're spiritually elevated, right? Because they're in the spiritual realm. So they have powers, right? They're spiritually powerful, and they have the ability to bring us a lot of blessings and elevate us in life. So it's a major part of the tradition, right? We have shrines for egbe, right? Because again, they're different categories. So we have shrines which represent the different types of egbe, right? One category could be Iyalode. We have a shrine for Iyalode that we can go to and pray for blessings. We have a shrine for Jagun, which is another type of egbe that we can go to and pray for blessings. There are many types, right? So working with egbe is a very big part of our tradition. They're priests and priestesses of egbe, right? Another way, they communicate with us strongly in dreams and things like that, right? Now, those are many positive ways they can impact us. They can also create some difficulty in our lives, such as sometimes we've made pacts in heaven, such as having a spiritual husband or spiritual wife, and then we get here on earth, that spiritual husband or spiritual wife is making it difficult for us to have relationships, right? And some other ways. But this ties into those two verses, right? So the first verse that I chanted from Utura Meji Akuru Mangbele, that verse, right? This speaks about one of the positive impacts that our egbe can have on us in terms of healing, right? And in this verse, it speaks about someone who was so depressed, fed up with life. They were like, their mental health was not good, and they were ready to give it all up and end their life, right? And so in the beginning of the verse, it says, Diafun Eriaye Onbo Konfun Torun. So divination is performed for the egbe of the earth, which is us, and the egbe of heaven, the spiritual realm. I talked about we exist here and there, right? Ekuru akara timoje ya mitisan. Ekuru is like a type of food. Akara is another type of food. I think ekuru is made from beans. Akara is also made from beans, right? Timoje ya mitisan. So the ekuru and akara that I'm eating, my mother's paid for. Akuru mangbele mamaku degbenu. So this is where that person who was so fed up, ready to give up on life, and throw away, that's another part. They were ready to throw away their egbe shrine. They were so fed up with life and just end it. So it's saying, Mamaku degbenu, don't throw away your egbe and die, right? Akuru mangbele, then we say, Iraiku, Iraje, Iraya, Iraoko, Iraomo, Ishegonta. We're mentioning all types of blessings. Timo J, Ya, Mitison. Like all these blessings that I'll have is my mother that will pay for it, right? And so I believe this is referring to your egbe. So it's advising the person, don't, no matter how depressed, whatever mental state that you're in, ready to give up, don't throw away your egbe shrine and die, because it's your egbe that will uplift you and will fulfill your hopes and bring you all the blessings that maybe are causing you to be in this state of depression, right? So this is an example of how, sometimes when we're, and we're talking about mental health, right? This is how sometimes when we're in a very low state, right? There's many aspects of spiritual healing, but one aspect is that sometimes it's your egbe, right, that will uplift you and elevate you out of that state, right? So this is from my Odu, from my hand of Ifa. And, I've lived the experience of that Odu, and I was told to work closely with my egbe to uplift me and elevate me into a better mental state. So that's one aspect of healing. Now, let's talk about what the other verse that I chanted means. The verse that went, Bio Jojo, Bio Jojo, Bio Tutu, Bi Rinrin, Diafun Rintin Soma Jalaye, Diafun Tutu Tin Soma Ajani Waron. So this verse is speaking about someone who tends to get very sick all the time, catch colds, things like that, and they don't know why. But what's happening is their spiritual double in heaven is pulling on them, pulling them slightly back to the spiritual realm, and it makes them have these spells of sickness. And they need to work closely with their egbe to, clear away that type of sickness, right? And so sometimes the 5 verses are tricky to exactly translate word for word, but my understanding of this verse is that Riri is the person on earth, right? And Ututu, which means cold literally, is the spiritual double in heaven. And Ututu is pulling on Riri, like, come here. And when that happens, Riri starts to get sick and experience colds and things like that, right? So this is speaking about how our egbe can impact our health directly, right? Egbe can call people home early, right? Another aspect too is if someone is an abiku, right, which is a child who's born to die, like they were meant to come here and then go back home early. Sometimes that issue needs to be fixed through Egbe as well, right, to ensure that they're not called back to heaven early, right? So Egbe can pull people back to heaven early. This verse is an example of how our Egbe can even pull on us slightly and cause sickness and other, bodily issues, right? And so in this case, you could do as many healing rituals as you want, as many spiritual baths, this, that. But in this case, it's actually someone's egbe that need to be appeased, right? They need maybe egbe initiation, like in my case, and they need to work closely with their egbe to stop these flashes of cold and things like that, right? So we see the many ways that our egbe can be a source of healing, how our egbe can cause some, bodily health issues, and then can also be the source of solution and healing for that problem as well. So as I close out, my prayer for you is the prayer from the first verse that I chanted, right? That verse which talks about someone who's feeling so down, ready to give up, so defeated, so hopeless. So my prayer for you is that anyone who's watching this who feels like they're ready to give up in life, they don't know how they're going to do this, they don't know how they're going to do that, they're ready to just throw in the towel and call it quits, that your Egbe, right, your heavenly mates always support you. They always remind you that there is hope, right, and that they give you the blessings and the success that you are looking for in life.
Greetings, everyone. Peace and blessings. And I want us to make sure that we find a comfortable seated position. If you really want to, you could also lay down, but then you run the risk of falling asleep. So I invite you to find a comfortable seated position, maybe feet firmly grounded on the earth. Take a deep breath in to sit up nice and tall. On the exhale, soften your shoulders, soften the body. Let's get ourselves present, get ourselves here. Maybe you want to bring a hand to the heart to hold something in. Maybe you want to bring something in. Maybe you want your hands open on the lap to receive. Inhale and exhale. Feel free to soften your gaze or you can close your eyes. Inhale and exhale. Letting our exhale be twice as long as the inhale. Inhale and exhale. And as we focus on the breath, I want to bring us to the coast, to the water. Just like the waves and the water that brings us into the world, our breath comes in and goes out. So allow your breath to flow like the water, like the waves coming in and going out. In and out. And as we get settled into this meditation, I want us to begin with the body that we've been given for this time on earth. Let's just check in, starting with the feet, that part of our body that grounds us, that connects us, that carries us, that helps us move from place to place. Just notice what's there. If there's any tension in the feet, try to release it on the exhale, let it go with the water. And if it stays, then just let it be. And let's keep working through the body. Check in with the calves and the shins, your knees and your thighs, the hamstrings and the glutes. checking in with our lower body that grounds us and gives us mobility, our lower body that holds the top half. Notice what's there. Offer gratitude for what your body does. And then let's work our way through the belly, the chest, the core. Exhale, noticing our back, the support. Inhale and exhale. Bring awareness to any sensations or feelings that you notice here in the center of the body, that part of our body that houses our heart, that pumps blood through the rest of our body to keep us going. And let's check in with the shoulders, the arms, elbows and forearms, wrists, palms, and fingers. The part of our body that allows us to embrace, to hold, to carry. And as we inhale, let's check in with the neck, that part of our body that holds the head. Notice the face, the chin, the lips, the cheeks, the eyes, the ears, the forehead, and the crown. That part of our body where our ori lives. Inhale and exhale. Allow the breath to be slow. Allow your spirit to check in with the body, to connect a little deeper. Find that connection between the ori and the physical. And I want us to think about anything that we are starting as we close out the summer and transition into the fall, as school years begin, and as we all start new journeys, whatever that looks like. I want you to think about what is something that you are starting in this next season of your time here on earth. Is it a new hobby? Is it a new relationship? Is it a new job? Is it a new school year? What are you beginning? I want us to take a breath of some peace and blessings for that new beginning, and exhale to release. Releasing whatever needs to go, releasing whatever blockage that is there. Take a breath of the courage that it takes to accomplish what you are setting forth to do. And exhale any of the doubt that stands in your way, those disruptive thoughts, those intrusive thoughts that tell us we can't. Let's release them and let them go. And then I want us to just take a moment here, a couple breaths to ourselves, reflecting on what this new journey means for us, what we might get out of this new step, what we might offer in this new step. And then let's close with 3 breaths. Take a deep breath in and exhale it. Take a breath of self-love as you start this new journey. And exhale some community love. Let's share. And let this last one, the biggest breath of the day, a breath for this new beginning. Take a big breath in, biggest breath of the day. Inhale. Fill the lungs, fill the belly. And exhale audibly. Ashe, ashe. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, friends. We're continuing with our lesson on Kemetic Yoga and its influence on the body. We talked about the symbolism of the Sphinx with the head of the pharaoh and the body of the lion or the cat. The head of the pharaoh, the mental and spiritual component, is symbolized by the uraeus, the wachet, that is the snake that comes from the third eye, which represents the pineal gland and the hormonal connection between the body and the spirit. And our nervous system, the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems that help us to respond to threats and control our fight or flight response versus our relaxation response through the breath. And this goes from our brain through the vagus nerve to our heart, diaphragm, and our gut brain, our GI tract. So the motion of our body can regulate up the vagus nerve as well. How a yogi eats is light upon their soul, a plant predominant diet to keep a frame that is light and easy to walk upon the earth. And the symbolism of the cat is very important from the standpoint of flexibility. When you see a cat awaken, one of the first things they do is stretch. We as animals, often don't follow our instincts to do that the first thing when we wake up or when we move from one position to the next. So the flexibility cultivated from our Kemetic Yoga practice is important to take all of our joints through the entire range of motion, and to go beyond that to allow our muscles to expand or telescope out from our joints and give us freedom of movement. The other thing about the cat is it regulates its fight or flight response very easily. A cat will be calm, and if it sees a mouse or a threat, you'll immediately see the fangs and the shoulders come up, and the cat is ready to pounce. But as soon as that threat is over, they go immediately back into their relaxed state of awareness. If you throw a cat, they have that ability to right themselves. So they don't just fall where you drop them. They immediately go into a position so that they control their landing and land on their feet, no matter what forces come against us. So that is another thing we're trying to cultivate with our poses in Kemetic Yoga, balance and that ability to right ourselves should we get thrown off. You know that a lot of physical disability happens as persons age because of falls, and the ability to catch ourselves when we stumble, the ability to balance is very important, especially as we age. We cultivate our core strength through our breathing practices, and our movements of Kemetic Yoga forms are done very slowly and in a grounded way that allows that pelvic floor strength, the root lotus, to remain strong so that we don't have the problems of needing poise pads and depends as we get older, because we have all the control of our pelvic floor, not only for control of our digestive, urethral, and genital areas, but also the seat of our balance and alignment for our posture. As people age, gravity tends to press them down, and that pressure can lead to an increase in the head forward posture with slouching, rounding of the shoulders, rounding of the back, a trunk forward posture, an inability to walk heel toe and to stride through your hips, knees, and ankles. And as things lock up, people tend to walk side to side instead of striding front to back. And that makes them even more prone to falls if they don't have the strength and flexibility in their muscles. They can't get up from a chair or out of the car without using their hands. They don't have the strength to move without irritating other parts of their body that they're not supposed to be using for movement. So the use and positioning of our arms and legs and the cultivation of our core and alignment in our practice of Kemetic Yoga helps us to maintain a good postural alignment against gravity. It decreases the degenerative changes that we expect from gravity while we age on the earth, and allows us to maintain our functional level so that we can, as we get older, remain functional and become the welderly, a new term that describes the fact that as we age, the most important thing is our remaining healthy, strong, and well, and not to just have longevity, but to maintain our well-being and function as we are moving into eldership, so that we can continue the work of our mission and living our purpose during our incarnation at work on the earth. It requires not only mental capacity, but physical capacity to manifest our desires on this plane. So I hope this information is helpful to you as you move forward in a regular and consistent Kemetic Yoga practice to maintain your health and well-being and improve your health and well-being through a regular practice. It was so nice speaking with you, and I hope this helps. Thank you.